Hi, I'm Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. I'm joined today by Simcha Greiniman, one of the many humble and superhuman heroes of Israel's ZAKA Search and Rescue. I need to give advance warning, not just a trigger warning of the content that we'll be covering. Some of it will be disturbing, so watch with caution. But also that there's no doubt that I will be crying. This is an extraordinarily emotional episode we'll be having today, rather than the usual conversations. On October 7th, 2023, the world watched in real time as Hamas terrorists gleefully live streamed the barbaric rampage and unmitigated carnage it unleashed on the state of Israel. Today, 1 week away from the anniversary of 10/7, we see social media flooded with denial that the one-day Holocaust, which slaughtered 1,200 Israelis in a matter of hours, ever even occurred. This despite the fact that Hamas itself proudly admits to and even flaunts the atrocities. I am joined again today by Simcha Greiniman, who, along with his volunteer ZAKA Search and Rescue team, was among the first responders to the scene of the massacre. I hope that you will listen to this whole conversation so you could hear firsthand what he experienced and so you can bear witness to his testament. And please share widely in respect for the deceased and for the tireless work of the ZAKA volunteers. What they experienced is impossible to imagine and imperative to never forget. Before we begin, people always ask me where they can donate to help Israel in the aftermath of 10/7. Please consider donating generously to ZAKA. The sacrifices they have made are so far beyond words, and they deserve our love, our support, our respect, and yes, our donations. The link is in the show notes, and I do hope that you will use it. I usually use this podcast as an opportunity to have important conversations, but today I'm really just here to listen. Again, please note that this episode may contain depictions of a violence that some people will find disturbing. Allow me to introduce Simcha. He is the ZAKA commander of Modin and a veteran volunteer. He has been a key and veteran ZAKA member for over 30 years, which has included aid and assistance with the sick, ventilated and wounded individuals, war victims, Holocaust survivors, and others across Israel, Turkey, India, Egypt, and many other locations with exceptional dedication. Simcha's life is dedicated to the mitzvah of honoring and respecting the dead. He upholds the ZAKA virtue of treating all victims with the exact same dignity and care, regardless of nationality, religion, or race. Simcha, I'm already losing it. Thank you so much. And kol hakavod. And for anybody who doesn't understand Hebrew, it means all the respect. And when I say all the respect, I mean all of it. You have the most unfathomably difficult and selfless job on earth. So thank you with every ounce of my being for joining me today and for everything that you do.
I appreciate everything. And we have to appreciate every moment in our life by understanding that every moment that we live and we care for each other, that's the main point of life, of doing the understanding, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, caring for the others as you care for yourself. If you live your life in that understanding that whatever you do for yourself as a family member or as a human, that the same way you have to act towards your fellow friend or even someone that you don't even know. And by respecting people that are deceased, it's even bigger because they never can say thank you. They can't never for sure they'll the soul in them appreciates what you do for them, but they can never thank you personally. The only ones that could appreciate and thank you are the family members if they're also alive. On October 7, we had situations that we buried full families, parents, grandparents, children, all together as families, whole families. But we stood in positions that we were collecting any item from the cars of the Nova or from the houses to be able to give the family something to lean on, something to appreciate, something to have for the rest of their life, to hold something that they could connect to from whoever was deceased.
So, Simcha, before we move on, a lot of our listeners are probably not familiar actually with ZAKA. So can we start by telling us not only what ZAKA is as an organization, but also who it is comprised of? Who are the individuals, the people, the volunteers?
Okay, ZAKA was funded close to 39 years ago after a terror attack. A terrorist was tried to push over a bus that was driving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He was able to turn the wheel of the driver of the bus, flip the whole bus over a cliff with close to 40 people on the bus. Special first responders came to the scene and tried to help to collect whatever remains there are from the bodies, and whoever was injured, they were helping out over there. One of the people that came to help after a few days later started smelling a bad smell from his car, and he remembered that he took from one of the scenes over there an arm, and he was hoping to bring it to the morgue, but he was a little bit disturbed from different things, and he forgot to bring it. And after 2 days, all of a sudden, he started smelling the smell of that arm. Then they decided that a group of people decided that they're opening a special volunteer organization that will be able to help after any disaster, not only in Israel, but anywhere around the world, to be able to collect remains of human. That's not something easy at all to deal with. And 15, when I was 15 and a half, almost 16 years old, I was already a volunteer in the Red Cross of Israel, Magen David Adom, as a EMT. And I used to come to the scenes those years, 32 years ago. Buses were blowing up in Israel in the first Intifada, second Intifada. And I used to come to the scenes and help out with whoever was injured. And I saw the ZAKA members collecting all the remains and staying there on the scenes and collecting every drop of blood and respecting every tissue sample, every bone, by such dignity and such respect that I was shocked out of seeing what they're doing. Well, my father passed away when I was 5 years old. And growing my whole life by a certain shadow of how could I give back to my father anything to do good on behalf of my father, or to give back to someone that I can't really meet or say thank you. And I felt that that's the way I'm able to really connect to my father, by dealing with these deceased people, by collecting all their remains, by giving him the maximum of the honor, the respect for those that died, and for sure respect whoever's still alive. By respecting whoever died, you respect whoever is alive. There's a very, very important thing that we as ZAKA members, before we become a volunteer, we sign on a document saying that we never in our lives will never take out a phone or take any pictures or images in any scene, by understanding that today you press enter, in a second the whole world gets the images. And for sure, by respecting whoever died is respecting whoever is alive. You don't want all these pictures to be floating around. On October 7, the denial that happened after the Holocaust took 50 years, took 50 seconds to deny what happened on October 7. During the time they were still sending videos from the GoPro cameras, they started already denying that Israel was behind the whole attack on Israel, to be able to have a reason to continue attacking people in Gaza. Well, that's not the story. That's not the situation. The situation is for sure what we dealt with. Over 1,200 bodies of Israeli citizens, close to 100 bodies of high workers and different workers from different countries that worked in Israel, and close to 1,500 bodies of terrorists. And by understanding what humanity means, by understanding that what we're doing is respecting and living our life in the shadow of God. What does that mean, to live your life in the shadow of God? When God created this world, it says that before he created this world, there were different worlds to start with. And those worlds were basically, God created them in a way of everything was in a situation of if you do right is one thing, if you do wrong, you're totally in a different position. This world was created in humble, and for sure in understanding how to put judgment in the world in a way that God also takes into consideration that we are human. When God created man, he gave him a name as Adam. Adam stands in Hebrew, if you spell it, is Aleph Daled Mem. Aleph stands for God, Eloka, El, and Daled Mem is blood. If you connect God to the blood, you can be human and you can live as a human. But if you separate yourself from God, what's left is only blood. And blood, we know that blood means difficulty, different situations that we don't want to even get to that point. So as ZAKA members, we have to live our lives the whole time in the shadow of God, and try to be humble, and try to be grateful for what we have, and try to do good for other people, to try to be there for any need of anyone else. ZAKA has 7 different divisions. Part of the divisions is daily, based on dealing with deceased people. That's called Chesed Shel Emet. honoring to death. But we have different divisions. We have drones. We have canine dogs. We have 4x4 wheelers. We have drones. We have divers. And all this is volunteers, close to 4,000 volunteers. We have 15 working people on payroll. I mean, all the rest of all the 4,000 people around in the organization are volunteers totally. We have men, women, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Bedouins, all cultures of people that want to give and care for other people. Now, on October 7, we had close to 800 volunteers on the first night coming down to the scenes to help out, to collect the remains, to deal with the situation. I personally have another role in the ZAKA. We have a truck, and basically this truck is basically for the week of mourning. The families that sit and mourn, we bring them a tent, we bring them tables, chairs, or whatever supplies that they need. Oh, 4 years ago, after the COVID, we had a festival in Israel. It's called Lag BaOmer in Miron. We had 45 people that died over there. It was the first year after COVID. Everyone came, and there was a lot of chaos over there, and people were trying to go out of a certain area, and people trampled each other, and 45 people got killed. As a medic, every year I come to Miron, and that year I was there with the truck of ZAKA. I brought supplies, different supplies for search and rescue for children if people get lost or children get lost in Miron. The ZAKA is there always for that purpose. And I took that year 14 bodies on the truck by respecting the bodies, the people that died. So we laid them out on the truck one by one. October 7, I was called in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2:20, my phone rang. I'm in the synagogue dancing with my children and grandchildren, having the greatest time, understanding what it means to live a life of a Jew, what it means a circle of life, living around the Bible, the beginning and finishing the Bible every year in Simchat Torah, that day of holiday of never finishing the Bible, but always starting again and again. By that meaning of the circle of life, we dance and we have the best happy moments of understanding what we're living for. And then my phone rings at 2:20 in the afternoon. In my community, we didn't have any sirens at all because the Iron Dome only goes out, it puts out the sirens only when there's a missile heading towards the area. And it was quiet in my community. And my phone rings and I walk aside. I answer the phone, and that's one of the commanders in the IDF calls me. I served for 28 years connecting between ZAKA and the IDF on a daily basis. I forgot to say it before. I'm a carpenter. I don't work for ZAKA. I'm a volunteer. But my whole purpose of my carpentry shop where I work is to train people to be self-supporting, to be able to give them a reason to get up in the morning, to come to work, to have some place to work and to appreciate that they're capable of doing whatever they're doing. And part of my service in the army was connecting between ZAKA and the army. On a daily basis, ZAKA works under the police. If there's any car accidents, train accidents, bus accidents, people that or suicide, people that were killed or injured by terror attacks, any earthquake around the world, after the tsunami, after the earthquake in Turkey, we were there collecting 18 bodies of Muslims. After the tsunami, we were there in Haiti for 3 months, helping out over there to collect the remains and the bodies. We were after 9/11. Well, basically, 2.5 years ago in Surfside, we came to help anywhere around the world, Egypt, different countries, because we not only represent Jews and the Israel forces, but we also represent a special force in the UN, notified by the UN as a search and rescue team. And sometimes, even if the Israeli military does not come to give support into different countries, we come as ZAKA members anywhere around the world, even countries that are not in good communications with Israel, because our purpose is to help. And it doesn't make difference who you are or what your belief is, but understanding that what we're doing is so important. Well, on October 7, I'm leaving my house. I'm heading with the truck. I'm asked to bring the truck with me. So I asked, is it so serious that I need to bring the truck on normal basis? We bring ambulances, we bring whatever ambulance that there is in the area. And I'm asked to bring the truck. That means it's something much more than normal situations. And I'm asked to head towards Ashkelon, a hospital in Ashkelon, and I should head over there. And if they'll need my help as a medic in the hospital, if not, I'll be able to help with the deceased, whatever is needed, as a ZAKA member. I'm driving towards Ashkelon, heading with another 4 volunteers with me in the truck. We're 5 altogether. And every few minutes, there are missiles flying over towards Israel. And we stop the truck aside, and every time we get the missile alert on our phones, right away, we know what to do. We jump out of the truck and back, we lay on the road, put our hands over our heads. And all of a sudden, I get a call asking to come straight to Sderot. And I ask, what's the situation over there? And I'm told there are 22 bodies in the engine of Sderot waiting for me already. By understanding that, I head towards Sderot on Route 34. I'm heading down from 232, heading down to 34. As I hit the lights, making a right turn towards Shara Negev in Sderot, I can't continue driving. And I turn around towards the volunteers with me in the truck, and I asked, did anyone get an alert of a missile? Because what I saw in front of my eyes is something that you cannot imagine, you cannot believe. There are cars still in flame, cars on fire, and bodies all over the highway. A drive that maybe takes 3 minutes took us 10.5 minutes just to drive in between the bodies, driving in between the cars. It's unbelievable what we saw over there. Well, when it happened, that second, the first thing I did is I called right away ZAKA offices to hear what's going on, because something was wrong. There was no ambulances, no police, no fire department. No one was there. And there's still bodies all over and cars still in flame. So my first reaction was to jump out of the truck and start taking care of those people that were deceased. Oh, we're injured. I didn't really know what's the situation. And before we jumped out of the truck, I said, let's make a call. So I called the officers of ZAKA, and Chaim answers the phone. I say, Chaim, what's going on? He says to me, whatever you do, do not stop the truck. I say, Chaim, what do you mean, do not stop the truck? The highway is full of bodies, and I have to take care of them. He says to me, you see what happened over there? There are terrorists in the fields around you. Any second, you could get hit with an RPG. And with a truck like this and this size, you're a target. Any second, you could become a target, and you better get out of there. Whatever you do, do not stop the truck. And I drive between the bodies in the cars heading towards the entrance of Sderot, and I'm in shock to see so many bodies on the highway. Not to believe what's going on, not to understand what's going on. And I get to the entrance of Sderot, and the first thing that I see is a pile on my left side, a pile of 22 bodies waiting for us. I stopped the truck. I started loading the bodies. I loaded 14 bodies. As I said before, that was the reason I didn't take in Miron 45. I took, out of respect, 14. That's what I can lay out in the truck by respecting, by not just piling them up. And I walk over to the commander on the scene, and I tell him, listen, the truck is loaded. I'm going to be going to the morgue, and I'll be back in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes. And he says to me, no, you're not going anywhere. Yes. I said to him, what do you mean I'm not going anywhere? The truck is loaded. He says to me, I see you did not understand what we're facing at all. So what do you mean? He says to me, you came from the highway, you saw the bodies all over. I said, yes. He says to me, okay, so let me explain to you like this. Number one, you saw the highways. Now, by understanding what you saw, any moment these bodies that are on the highway could be taken into Gaza as hostages. Any second. We don't have enough manpower. This is under attacks. This is under missiles flying still over. 2 blocks away, we hear the war that's happening in the police department in Sderot. It's 2 blocks away. We hear shooting, we hear bombing, we hear what's going on over there. And he says to me, that's number one. Number two is I have young soldiers heading down towards Gaza with tanks, with different trucks or whatever it is. They're going to be seeing the scenes like this with all these bodies on the highway. They're not going to be able to function at all. So I need you to clear out the highways. And not only that, I don't have any manpower at all to have any soldiers or police officers standing on the road watching over those bodies. So start loading. And we continued loading on the 22 bodies. And then they gave us 2 Jeeps to come with us and 2 police cars to be able to surround the truck so we should be a little bit more safe as possible. Driving down car by car. Every car is a story that you cannot believe. You cannot imagine what we saw over there. Come to the first car, there's two front doors are wide open. And there's a trail of blood going from the driver's side to the other side of the road. And a trail of blood coming from the other door going into one of the fields. And we collect those bodies. We come back to the car and we open the back seats, the back doors of the car. And there's 2 baby seats. Hundreds of bullets. And you can't face a situation like this. As a normal situation that you come out of your house, you're leaving your house, you're going to be seeing a car accident, so you know what you're going to be facing. You'll see 5 people, a driver, maybe 5 people in the car, maybe 10 people in the car, even a bus accident. So you know that you'll be facing a situation that maybe 55 people were killed, maybe in a terrible, terrible accident. But over here, you're dealing with hundreds of bodies. Every moment, another scene and another scene and another scene. Going through cars that were burned. As I said before, I'm 32 years in ZAKA. I dealt with many, many times buses that blew up, cars that were burned, but not to a point that what we dealt over here. We came to a burned car. When you come to a burned car, you have remains. Usually the body's burned, yes, in different degrees, but you always have what to collect. Over here, they used chemicals, different liquids. They threw in, after they threw in grenades and they bombed it with RPGs. They threw in different liquids that rise the heat over 800 degrees. So there was no option at all to recognize anything what remained over there. When we got to the cars, there were some places there were still skeletons. Bones, totally, just bones. And when we came to pick up whatever remains that was there, everything disintegrated in a second. There was nothing left. We had to bring vacuum cleaners to vacuum every corner of the car, make bags with numbers to try to afterwards identify. Hopefully, to try to be able to build DNA out of those remains of the ashes. This is only the first few hours. Think about it. It took 5.5 hours to clear that road of 10 minutes of a drive. On a normal basis, it was maybe a 2-minute or 3-minute drive. 5.5 hours of just collecting that little part of the road. 72 bodies in the truck, from floor to ceiling. Piled and piled, bodies and bodies. And this is just beginning of the 2.5 weeks of collecting bodies and remains. Going through the kibbutzim, every house was a story, every place was something that you cannot imagine, you cannot believe, you cannot understand what they were going through. The moments that you cannot understand. You can understand what those people were going through.
I know that I was listening to, I think maybe it was Chaim speaking about how a Holocaust survivor was shown some of the images and said that even in the Holocaust that nothing could compare to what occurred on 10/7. And when you talk about piles of bodies, of course, as a Jew who grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust, all I could think about is the piles of bodies. And for people to mitigate what occurred, I mean, it astounds me how like headlines that are like, Israel downgrades the number of dead from 1,600 to just 1,200, as if, first of all, that's the point. But second of all, 1,200 people massacred in the most brutal circumstances. I mean, I would like to say that you could imagine, but no normal human being could even imagine such treachery. It's
For sure.
It's like, for all of the logical comparisons that are being made to the Holocaust, in that this was a new Holocaust, this is what genocide looks like. At the same time, it's also like in a class of its own.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that you cannot imagine, you cannot believe, you cannot relate to. You can't really dream of a situation like this. The story with a Holocaust survivor is something that you can't imagine. Coming into a room, and some of the kibbutzim, when you came into houses, so you saw half of the house was burned, or you saw remains of a grenade, so you see a lot of holes, and you see bombing, you see bullet holes. But every house that had casualties, we had 2 circles signed on that house that there is remains that we have to collect. And while we were walking through one of the kibbutzim, we saw a house that had those 2 circles, but there was nothing else on anything that you could really understand what happened over there. So we walked into this room, into the house, and as we were walking into the house, we smelled the harsh smell of blood. And we walk into the bedroom, and as I walk into the bedroom, my foot just starts slipping on the blood on the floor. And I look straight ahead of me, and I see a hospital bed. On this hospital bed, there's a Holocaust survivor. What they went through in the Holocaust, we don't know. But we know what they went through those last moments of their life. They couldn't run away. They couldn't do anything against what happened over there. They were connected to different machines, different oxygen, and different things. But the way they were butchered, there were knives, hammers, screwdrivers, axes. You can't believe what you're seeing in front of your eyes, and you say to yourself, what happened over here? There is no answer. There is no answer. This is one little story about what happened. We came to houses that the whole family was separated. I mean, the parents, the family was in one room, and the mother and the daughters were in different rooms. What they went through when they were separated from the family, partially half body naked. These are things that I had to stand up in front of the UN and speak about them. I came to the UN to speak about women's rights, what I dealt with those women that went through whatever they went through. And standing there in front of the world, speaking, screaming their voice. After the Holocaust, we had survivors, they had numbers on their arms. We are the numbers. We, as ZAKA members, we were there. We dealt with these situations. I came to speak in one of the places I came to speak was in New Jersey. And when I came to speak there, so the synagogue that I spoke in, they put up signs that I'll be coming to speak. A day later, there were signs up all around New Jersey, Teaneck, New Jersey, that we have to stop the lies of ZAKA. Well, the pro-Hamas activists decided to put up signs against me and ZAKA members to stop what we're saying, because we are the eyes and ears, and we have to continue speaking and shouting what they went through.
And I've seen Al Jazeera also trying to discredit ZAKA, and it's the amount of pressure that they put on to intimidate you when you've gone through so much trauma, and to twist your stories, and to I on one hand, I understand that you don't want to believe that your side can be so barbaric. And I could only imagine that if Israel were to engage, which I can't even imagine. I mean, in my greatest imagination, there's nothing that would bring Israel to execute such atrocities. But if they were, of course, like, our own cognitive dissonance would try, I guess, to step in to protect that. But to attack of all people, the people who are there to preserve the dignity of the dead, including the terrorists, which I want to touch upon that as well. It just shows such a level of inhumanity that we're seeing also in just the explosion of anti-Semitism after 10/7. I mean, it should have been just the opposite. This should have been the day that woke up the world and said, anti-Semitism is a problem and we need to act against it. And the fact that the world pivoted in the opposite direction and seeks to discredit literally the most selfless volunteers that probably exist on Earth today just adds on a whole new layer of man's inhumanity to man.
For sure, for sure. That was one of the hardest situations. But even so, as I said, because we are members of the UN, going around the world, providing help anywhere around the world. When I was questions, different stupid questions like, why didn't you have a rape kit in your pocket? Well, show me any first responder anywhere around the world that walks around with a rape kit. And that's number one. Number two, a stupid question of which color of underwear did the deceased woman was wearing. I said, I don't understand your question. I don't understand the where do you come from with questioning me with these kind of things? Not only that we were attacked, we have to prove it that we were attacked. These, I can't call them animal, but these barbarians were walking around with GoPro cameras on them, streaming live to their families and the headquarters of Hamas and Iran, showing what they're doing on live, being proud of they were able to do this and this and killing this and this amount. Everyone was proud of what they were doing. And we have to prove it. Well, I got to a certain point that if I'm facing someone that is denying, there is no point to speak to him about it. If there is someone that's interested to listen, to try to understand, then there is what to do. And my heart rips out for all these children and people that die in Lebanon, in Gaza. I really do. I really do feel for them. And it's sad that the terror, the Islam terror, is anywhere in Europe, in America, as we can see, and in the young universities, how they're acting against Jews, acting against people that they don't know anything about them, by calling names and doing acts against students anywhere in colleges. It's unbelievable how they were able to twist the situation into a point that instead of going against Hamas, going against Hezbollah, going against Iran, seeing how much they're taking advantage of their own citizens. That's the hardest part. Using children and women as human shield. This is unbelievable.
I've had multiple conversations with thought leaders on this, including Coleman Hughes, who deals with intersectionality, and David Bernstein on the topic of woke anti-Semitism, and Rabbi Wolpe about next generation anti-Semitism, and you take all the greatest minds on earth who are trying to figure out this conundrum right now, and nobody can. There's no way to wrap your head around this. It would be as if after 9/11 the whole world turned on America. It exactly. Makes sense, and yet I want to say educated. I mean, they're educated, doesn't make them intelligent. Educated people, not just on our campuses, also LAUSD tomorrow, the Los Angeles Unified School District, the teachers are planning on having like a Palestinian Solidarity Day where they're all going to wear like keffiyehs and stuff. And like these are the
Do they
people
know what?
eating our
Do they
net.
know what? Do they know what kafia stand for?
I have to guess that they don't. And on that same note,
Okay.
you were present for you said that you were active in both the first and second intifadas. Again, like these are people who are literally calling for intifada in the name of justice. Could you
Yeah.
just briefly explain to the audience what the intifada actually is, what it was, what it would be? What are they calling?
Well, the Intifada is basically as they're pronouncing from the river to the sea. Well, when you say from the river to the sea, you mean no Israel, no Jews, nowhere, anywhere in Israel, anywhere on these lands. Um, not Jerusalem, not Judea and Samaria, anywhere around the country. You just wipe out the Jews. You're not giving any chance of two states for two state solution at all. Now, if we think about the situations many years, every year, every so often, the Israeli government tried to make peace. Okay, if it was the right wing or the left wing, giving back land, giving back Hebron, giving back Gaza Strip, everywhere around, anywhere in Israel, trying, and not only that, supporting hundreds of uh, people that live in Gaza coming into Israel to work, and people that live in Lebanon after bombing and attacking people from Syria coming to Israel to get health support. Think about it. You're facing a situation that you say to yourself, why should I help them? And no, we have to help because we understand what it means, humanity. We understand that through hope and through help, we hope for a better day. But that's not what happened. And now facing the situation of calling for intifada against America. It's like, well, if you don't let us have our rallies around campus, so tear down all the American flags and put up Hezbollah and Hamas's flags as that's what you want to live under. This is what, and so many young kids in the campuses do not understand what it means to live in that way of
But
terror, to live.
intifada goes far beyond ripping down flags.
For sure.
What
Is
are
is
they
is
calling?
is is basically living in jihad. That means if you're not Muslim, not normal basic Muslim, living your life, believing in Islam and living your life through the Quran. No, if you hate anyone that does not live in the life of Muhammad and living your life through jihad, not the Quran, jihad. That means anyone. Doesn't make a difference if you're Jewish, Muslim, even if you're Bedouin, even if you're a different culture in Islam. If you're Christian, you should get killed. Why? Because if you don't live in jihad, that means now jihad means there is no intermarriage. That means forget about the there is no such thing as gay. There is no if you don't live in their culture and they're closed-minded, you should be killed. And this is what's going on in Gaza. Any person that just had feelings for someone else or trying to live a different life than normal life, was killed in Gaza itself. Whoever tried to raise a latab, a flag of of a different living point was killed.
And so I do always, in I know that it's a delineation you really just pointed out, like to draw the line between radical Islam and Muslim. It's not the same. Can you talk a little bit about the Muslim volunteers in ZAKA? Because I think that as a Jewish person, those are the stories that have just seared right through my heart. And the story of the man, I don't believe he's with ZAKA, but the Muslim man who brought the women who were tied to the trees and said Shema for each one of them. And just I'm curious about Muslims who joined ZAKA. Is there like a comparable organization they could have joined that was Muslim? Like what in ZAKA is, if I'm not mistaken, primarily Chassid, right? It was founded by Hasidim. Is that correct?
It was founded by a ultra orthodox Jew, but the main purpose was respecting. Doesn't make difference who you are or what your culture is. Now, when we come to a Muslim country, doesn't make difference which country it is. We have to learn on our way there how to honor the deceased people. Like in the Jewish law, the first thing is when you get to a deceased person, the first thing is to cover their face, to pray and to hope that their eyes are already shut, that you don't stay with that image for the rest of your life. But out of respect, you cover the body, and the first thing you cover the face.
Okay.
Now, if you cover a face in Islam, you're disgracing the body.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Not in every culture of Islam, but that one of the main cultures of Islam is never cover the face. Now, if you think about it, we're coming to Turkey, one of the Islamic countries that suffered from a few times already from earthquakes.
Yeah.
And we came not only 2 years ago, but we came years back before, a few times after different disasters of earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
And we still get stabbed in the back every time that they decide to go against Israel. And we still come. And we still come. And how many times that we came into different other countries that I can't really speak about them, that they're totally against Israel. But we came on a purpose of being kind. There's a phrase that always people say that there's two for tango. It should be always two. If you want to dance, you have to have two. You can't dance by yourself, tango.
Right.
When we give a hug to a person, when I give someone a hug, there's always two sides for the hug.
Right.
There's someone that's getting the hug and someone that's giving the hug.
Right.
But there's always two sides for that also. Sometimes I'm giving a hug to someone because I need a hug.
Right.
And that's the most important thing, is giving out, showing how much we care for each other, caring for other people. It doesn't make difference who you are, what your culture is, and if you're a man or a woman. By respecting whoever you are, this is the way that hopefully one day we'll have peace and one day we'll be able to stand together united.
And how are you received? Like when you go to Turkey or Egypt or other countries that are, let's put it nicely, unfriendly to the Jewish state, like how are you received?
Well, we never go without being asked to come. But the main thing is after being asked to come, it also depends who is our host and what their purpose is. Do they need the help because they want really someone that's trained to do the job and really will take care of whatever is needed to be taken care of? And by understanding that every drop of blood is important to collect, and respecting, and not doing it in a way that you don't respect in the proper way. Well, you could use a tractor to just pick up whatever remains. No, we pick up with our hands. We do it in a respectful way, in a way that you do it, in a way that you collect all the remains. You don't just leave whatever you see on the scenes. You just wash it out. That's not respect. Collecting every drop of remain, every drop of blood, every tissue sample, to be able to make sure that the family, whoever is still alive, has something to feel that it was done the proper way.
Yeah, and I do so I think, again, people who aren't Jewish, or even people who don't really have a good frame of reference, don't fully understand this concept that that part of the respect for the dead is like you say, to collect every single drop of blood, every tissue sample, etc. This is, I can't even imagine how exhaustive and exhausting this work is. And one thing I do want to ask you about is you were there on 10/7 while there was, like, literally you're in the middle of gunfire. I'm not just talking about missiles from the sky. You are effectively in a war zone, and you're not just risking your life, and you're not just risking your life to save other lives. You're actually risking your life to respect those who are already deceased, which is a whole nother level of commitment. When I went to Belly, I witnessed, like, these rooms that the bullet holes are everywhere, and there is not a drop of blood, to be found in the whole house. And I also, when we went to the car graveyard, how they explained to us that every car had to be cleaned of every ash before it could enter the, I don't know what to call it, display. I can't imagine the care and dedication, but one thing I do want to emphasize, because there's so much demonization of Israel and of the Jewish people right now, is that everything that you're talking about, going back to the first thing you talk about, which is the golden rule, these are all Jewish precepts. These are all Israeli values. These are concepts that come from Torah. This isn't just a random group of people who are really just good people. They represent and are very representative of Israel. This is who Israel is. This is what we value as Jewish people.
Yeah, we value life. We value life, and we respect. We have honor to have whoever lived his life as a Jew, for sure, and respect them as our first one of our commandments is respecting the elderly, and through that is the same respect whoever died, by understanding that from the earth we came, and we're to the earth we'll go back, and by understanding that, as I said before, God is the one to decide who lives, who doesn't. Out of all these things, living through every moment, hoping to be a shadow of God on this earth, in the world, respecting every person as he is. That's our calling. This is our job. This is what we're living our life to be here for anyone else. And this is the most important part, to represent everyone, and to live through this. And we are putting ourselves in risk. We are putting ourselves in risk for our rest of our lives, that our soul is always going to be, I would say, wounded a firefighter knows that he has to run into a fire to save lives, but he knows that hopefully he'll be able to come out. We're heading to scenes that we're putting ourselves in risk. We're seeing things that will never, the images will never leave our minds. Whatever we do, any therapy that we get is always going to stay there. We walked into houses smelling these smells that took 4 to 5 months to be able to try to get them out of your head. It's not something that you can shower off and it goes. It's still in your brain. It's still in your mind. Going today, I just came back from the party area, and I was driving. And as I'm driving, everything I see today, everything I look out today, is like in a cloud through October 7. Every tree that I see on the highway, every car, every smell. You walk by someone and that's his smell or her smell or perfume or whatever gives you a hit and throws you back. But that's what we're able to do, to put our lives in that situation, to devote our lives to that, because we believe that what we're doing is the right thing. And we have to be there. We have to speak out. We have to shout. We have to scream for those people that died. Because if not us, who will? And we have a Mishnah that says that if you're in a situation that there is no man that could do what you could do, you have to be that man. And this is what we do. We were trained to do this. We live literally our life in this situation, and we have to continue doing, and we have to be strong to be able to face any situation that's coming on our way. Because what's happening up north now, who knows what could happen? And we have to mentally be healthy and strong to be able to call a volunteer today and say, listen, I need you up north now after a disaster again. You have to have a lot of strength for that. That's the reason we have to make sure that every volunteer in ZAKA goes through sessions, make sure that him and his family, his wife, his children, his co-workers, everyone around him is capable and being strong and able to continue doing what we're doing. I'm talking about supplies that in a day and a half, close to 2 days, we were empty with supplies because we didn't have anything to deal with hundreds and hundreds of body bags. We had a supply for a year. It's close to 1,000 bags, 1,500 bags maybe. But if you think about the situation over here, it's not a regular situation to put in a body into a body bag. A lot of the bodies were burned, and the arms are sticking out, and they rip the bag, and you have to put another bag, and you have to put another bag. You have to put it in a way that is respectful. And the supplies is one thing, but coming into a kibbutz and it's pitch dark, and you're walking around with a small flashlight because there's no electricity. So we had to bring generators and special balloons to put on light. All this is supplies and supplies and supplies that we did not have in those moments because no one was ready for an attack like this. So we had to get all these supplies and have anywhere around the country supplies like that.
I think that Simcha, when you talk about this moral imperative, I think that you take for granted that not everybody and so few people hear that call, that it's only a moral imperative to those who hear the imperative nature of that moral duty. And all of you have gone so far above and beyond, and it's not just simply what you're commanded to do. It's what you as heroes are willing to do. I do really want to talk about some of the psychological stuff, but before we do, I just want to ask like one more thing about 10-7, and if there's anything else you want to add, please feel free. But we alluded to this before about how you had to also remove the bodies of the terrorists. And I could imagine that was a whole, like, another level of trauma. So let me ask you this. First of all, does the process of respecting the dead change? I know it doesn't change if the victim is Muslim or Bedouin or Jewish or Christian, but if the victim is a terrorist, what are you doing with that victim's body?
Well, a lot of the bodies of the terrorists, we did not know for sure that they were terrorists because not all of them had vests on them or bands. Not all of them. But we collected them. First of all, as I explained, we had to make sure that the highways were empty. And we had to collect everybody from the highway. And after collecting in the highways, we had to collect in the kibbutzim also. But the main point of collecting the bodies of terrorists were, first of all, out of 1,500 bodies of terrorists, we found 27 Israeli citizens by DNA tests, one by one, making sure that we're not just putting them aside and saying, okay, so it's another terrorist. No, everybody had to go through DNA tests to make sure that it's not an Israeli citizen that picked up a machine gun or a Kalashnikov or different ammunition. Oh, they were taken captured with the terrorists towards Gaza, and then they were killed together. So you have a bunch of bodies, but you don't know who's a terrorist and who's a citizen. So we had to make sure that everybody go through tests. Then after that, we deep freeze them. A special way of keeping the bodies that they don't compose for close to a year and a half to 2 years. You can give back a full body to be able to extend them. As I said before, we still have 101 hostages, and we were hoping that we will be able to exchange between those bodies and the people that were taken into Gaza.
Yeah. Sorry. May I just ask, I know you guys were working day and night. How long did it take to complete your search and rescue efforts after 10/7?
It took 2.5 weeks to collect all the bodies, but it took 18.5 weeks to clear the houses and to clean the houses. After 2.5 weeks of collecting bodies and remains, I was approached by the government's office, and I was put in to be in charge to sign on every house, every car. That was done properly in the proper way. It was cleaned, and everything is brought to a burial according to the Jewish law. It took 18.5 weeks. And now, out of that responsibility that was put on my shoulders, I had to make sure that any scene that the volunteers came to collect the remains, they don't go back to clean the houses. Because when you're working like a robot, basically, under fire, under knowing that there's still terrorists running around, so you don't have time to really think about what you're doing, but doing it according to whatever you were trained. Like any soldier that goes into battle, he's trained to do 1, 2, 3, and this is how we work. We're trained to collect whatever bodies and parts, making sure that we don't ruin the scene as forensics, whatever they had to have all these pictures. As I said before, we never take pictures, but over here, after denying October 7, it took 50 seconds, we took pictures of every place, everybody, every area, the commanders giving instructions, how to do it, what to do, and all that, because we knew that one day we'll be facing court of law anywhere around the world. we should have all these proof and images and everything else. So there's 200,000, over 200,000 images by the police. And people ask all the time, why don't you release those pictures? Everyone should see it. So first of all, it's not respect, no respect at all, not for whoever was deceased, and for sure not the families. But not only that, we still have terrorists that were captured, and they're sitting in Israeli jails. And if we want to prosecute them, we have to be able to have these images without showing it out to anyone. We did use whatever we were able to use or whatever we needed to use. Some of the videos, as I said, from the GoPro cameras and some of the images that ZAKA took our members on the scenes, because we had to have the proof to show it in front of the UN, in front of any different countries around the world that were denying it. So there's a 47 minutes, the video of 47 minutes. I did show, after I came to speak in the UN, I spoke also in the Parliament of England, France, and Germany. I spoke in front of the Congress. But these situations, I had to bring with me the proof, not just saying out the stories or giving the stories out, but we had to have all this proof to show this is what happened, this is what we dealt with. After doing this, I also came out with the movie with Sheryl Sandberg, Screams Before Silence. I was privileged to go with Sheryl herself to speak in the Parliament of England, France, and Germany. After that, I was asked to come to speak again and again in the Parliament in England. I spoke there already 3 times. And we hope, according to whatever I understood, that the Parliament in England, they wrote a document that the UK put out after October 7, notifying all this information that they got and they saw coming to Israel, seeing the situation, dealing with what we dealt with. They saw all this, and they decided to put out a document that will have to put. So whoever is prime minister in those days, on October 7, every year, and every school around the UK will have to teach this document. We hope around the world, different countries will do it also.
With Labor in power, I hope that is actually carried out, but I'm gonna leave that.
No, that's something that was signed by 9 lords, and the only one that could change it is only the king.
Okay.
And it's something that they can't. That's the reason that these 9 lords took it on themselves to sign on it. So no one can stop it.
Okay, that's good. Education is where our biggest hole is, and where we definitely need to fill. Sorry, before I go into some of the just more personal experiences, is there anything else about your actual work with ZAKA that you would like to share specifically on 10/7? Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share?
Well, I have a beautiful story that is always, out of the darkness, is always a drop of light. While my responsibility of signing and cleaning out every house, making sure that no remains are left behind, I get a phone call from a family in one of the kibbutzim, and they ask me, they tell me their name, and I said, I'm sorry, I do not know any names. That was my first reaction when I was asked to be in charge. I said, on one consideration, that I do not know any names, so I could continue living my life without knowing the whole story. So I asked to have the houses numbered. So he gives me the number of the house, and he says to me, listen, please go over to house number 80. And I say to him, house number 80? There's nothing left from house number 80. The house was totally burned down. So he says to me, Me, my wife, and 2 kids, we survived. I said, okay, so what do you want me to go back there? What is there? I know that the house was totally burned. Says to me, we survived. The mezuzot survived. I said, what do you mean? He says, go back and see. I go back to the house, and he tells me, go into the back of the house, and you'll see that there's one room in the back corner. And I open the back door, and it's like totally, the whole thing is like burned. And the room is still white. Looked like nothing happened over there. It's unbelievable. But as he asked me to please go and take out the mezuzot. And I asked permission if I could have one of the mezuzot box. If you can see, this is basically the mezuzah itself. The box itself is totally crumpled. It got twisted from the heat. See, it's not straight.
Yeah.
But the mezuzah itself was totally whole. And it was very, very meaningful for me. I asked permission for them if I can take one to always have with me. So when I was standing in the UN, I had it in my pocket. And everywhere I go, I have it with me. This is my drop of light out of the hardships and the situations that unbelievable that we dealt with. But it gives us more hope and more life. So I asked him, what's the meaning of that? How did you know that the mezuzot survived? So he tells me, a few years ago, I got divorced. I remarried, and I didn't keep on being Shomer Shabbat. I came to live in the kibbutz, but I have one son that he's from. He goes to yeshiva, and that's it. That was it. When I came back from speaking in the UN, standing in the airport, and some rabbi walks over to me and asks me, "Did you daven? Did you pray mincha?" So I said, "No, please." So I went over and we prayed. After praying, I was standing there with my vest, my ZAKA vest, and he says to me, "You're from ZAKA?" So I said, "Yes." I said, "Where are you from?" So he says to me, "I'm from Tifrach." I said, "Wow, Tifrach, I have a beautiful story." And I tell him the story about the mezuzot. He says to me, let me tell you the story from the other side. I said to him, "What do you mean?" He says to me, "A few years ago, a boy came to my yeshiva. And he says that this boy came by himself. He didn't have any family with him. And he became very close to the rabbi. But he was all the time upset that he doesn't have any connection with his father. And the rabbi said, listen, buy your father a present and try to connect to him." He says, "My father is a millionaire. What does he need from me? Whatever I'll buy for him, it's nothing that will be able to connect between us." He says to him, "You know what? Buy him mizvot." Mizvah is a protection for us. We put it on our doors. It protects us. And that was it. And he bought him 4 mizvot. And when they came out of the house alive, he said, for sure, if I survived, the mezuzot survived. He didn't even ask. He was sure 100%. And when I came to the house and I saw what happened in the house, I couldn't believe my eyes. The mezuzot survived. Well, when we landed, that boy was waiting for the rabbi to pick him up from the airport. And he brought me over and we met and we hugged and we became very close friends. But from that day, every Friday, the father and the son call me because that was my biggest connection. The father understood how much connection he has to have with his son. And that gave me a beautiful light and connection to understand that we always have to be connected to our Father, to God.
The ability to find light in darkness is a terrific gift. I have to say, the story is It's mind blowing. Were they in that room, the room that was white and intact? Okay, so it's funny because I'm not a super observant Jew, but I kiss my mezuzah every single time I enter my house. And for anybody who doesn't know, a mezuzah it's a scroll. You'll see it, it's in like a container that Jewish people put on their house, and inside is the prayer, the Shema, which is it's not only I think you could correct me, Simcha, the holiest prayer, but also what I love about Shema is it's the last words we say before we go to bed, and the first words we say when we wake up, and it is a testament of life, and it does. And this family was protected, and the fact that the mezuzah, just for anyone who doesn't understand the full concept of what you were talking about, it's there to protect, and that's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. I usually save the hope question for last, but maybe there's more to come. Let me ask you, Simcha. You had said that, I know obviously there's an extraordinary amount of adrenaline that runs through your body when you're doing the work that you're doing, particularly when you're doing it under gunfire, but even months later, having to collect ashes and blood and body parts and in skin, I can't imagine the emotional toll. And in your words, you said you have to work basically like a robot. I mean, you have perhaps the most emotionally difficult, I'll call it a job, I know it's volunteer work, in the entire world. How do you maintain your composure among this unthinkable horror? How can you even get into that robotic space where you're not just paralyzed by what's in front of you?
For sure, some of the volunteers were falling apart or weren't able to do the hard work, and we appreciate them even coming to the scenes, even making sure that there's cold water, or cutting the bags off the rolls of the body bags, or bringing supplies, whatever we need on the scene itself, because not everyone is capable to really dissolve it into them. As I said, we're close to 4,000 volunteers, and just 800 of us were there to be able to work most of the time. But there's a quote that I always say. People ask me, first of all, as a joke, people ask me, so how do you sleep at night? So I always say on my left side, because you have to have a little bit of humor. You have to laugh every so often. But basically, the quote that I quote every time, it's להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. To praise God in the morning, as you said, when we get up in the morning, we thank God for a good night's sleep and getting up. It's not something that people go to sleep at night and don't wake up in the morning. So we praise God in the morning, but we praise God even more in the morning to be able to fall asleep at night. When we close our eyes and we see these images of unbelievable things that you cannot imagine, you cannot believe, you cannot connect to at all. You say a car accident, you say, I don't know what, okay?
Right.
But this is something that hundreds of bodies. You think of it to yourself. So, your community has 200 people, 300 people in your community. And God forbid someone dies. So let's say every year of your life. So it's 120 people in your life that you lost 100 people. So you know that 100 people died. We're talking about thousands of bodies. Talking about hundreds of bodies dealing one by one. It's a situation that you never could plan your life to deal with a situation like that. So that's what we have to stand and we have to say it. Praise God for giving us the possibility, the opportunity to fall asleep, to sleep, to be able to close our eyes without seeing those images. When I get a call to leave my house, the first thing is I pray that the eyes should be closed, as I said before, because you don't want to have that image facing it, seeing it, living your rest of your life, remembering the face of whoever you dealt with. And this is what we have to continue doing. And to be able to be strong is you have to live your life in the shadow of God. You have to live your whole life in a way that you're a believer and knowing that what you're doing is something that you're unique to do. Not everyone is capable of doing it. And because you have that strength, you have to appreciate it. You have to do it in the proper way. You have to make sure that you do it because it's not really my responsibility. It's every person as a human is their responsibility to do it, for sure, for their family, for their neighbors, for their friends. But we give them the opportunity not to be there, not to stand in those moments, but to be able to be part of ZAKA, to be able to be supportive of ZAKA. This is where anyone that wants to help, to give us the strength, to give us the opportunity to do what we're doing right, that's the most important. To be able to have the strength to continue doing what we're doing, to know that we're doing the right thing by having people give us the courage, give us the understanding, the appreciation of what we're doing, and giving us the feeling, the hug, as I said before. That's the most important part.
Yeah, and I do hope that at least all these listeners will stand up to give that hug and give you that strength. And Simcha, can you, because it is so unimaginable, can you talk a little bit about the psychological toll and the PTSD that your team has experienced, and how you're supporting each other, and what really the tolls that this has taken on obviously different people in different ways. Like you said, this is stuff that will be with you forever. And I think people need to understand also, because this is another aspect of why we need to support ZAKA. And I'll leave that up to you. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, as volunteers, when we face a situation of a car accident, so you know what you're going to be seeing. When we dealt over here with all these hundreds of bodies, it's something that hit us very, very hard. We had two volunteers, one was 38, one was 45, that passed away after having a heart attack, after working on these scenes, after dealing with the situations and not able to continue living their lives with the situation. They weren't sick, they weren't in any bad situation, but health-wise, at the end of the day, their heart could not continue living with this situation. We see after a few months of dealing with the situation, we get calls from wives of volunteers, and they give us notices that he's more closed up, he's more upset, he's not the same person. And sometimes it's a situation that a volunteer would always say, listen, I'm strong. I dealt with so many casualties during my life as a volunteer, with buses blowing up and everything else. And when we sit with them, we make special outings at nights, music, dancing, singing, swimming, barbecues, just to have a reason to be together. And through that, we are able to sit with the guys and hear from them a little bit more, a little bit from here, a little bit from there. And then we offer them whatever they need. but for sure, each one has to go through, they have to go through 12 sessions. The past half a year, that's what we had, 12 sessions for every volunteer. And then we had group sessions. But
Sessions, you
now,
therapy, psychological therapy.
for sure, private sessions. But then the government was providing group sessions, horseback riding, doing different special yoga and different other things to be able to really to try to connect. But we know as ZAKA members, people are very closed up to themselves. They're strong. They don't need help. But we see it. We see it happening more and more that when we have these meetings and these evenings, we see that the guys are opening up more and more. So that our main goal now is to try to work on the connecting with everyone, to be able to put them in a position that they feel comfortable to come and speak and let out. It's a year past, and this is a time that everything is growing up on us, much stronger than what we thought it will be. And we see it, and we see that every volunteer around the country has to have this support. And this is what we're doing. This is what we're dealing now. Every evening, we're opening now more and more private sessions and private meetings, but we're making a lot of different barbecue evenings, support evenings. We don't call them support evenings because if you call it a support evening, a lot of the volunteers say, I don't need any support.
Okay.
So that's the whole purpose of to work around, like to hit around the bush, basically to give them whatever they need without feeling that they're getting something that they're needed.
Right.
So that's the most important.
Got it.
We just put out this song, and different people came up with different songs and different words and tried to connect to this kibbutz or to that kibbutz or to the Nova or to this, that. And every time we tried to connect to it, we saw that I can feel one thing, the other guy could feel something else, a third guy could feel something else. The main thing is the music for sure. But sometimes you don't have any words to say anymore. And out of the music, out of the eyes of the volunteers, out of the emotional feelings and seeing the situation, what we went through the eyes, through the feeling, through the deepness of the music, that's what really put this song together.
Yeah, and the video is called "When Words Run Out." It's on the ZAKA website on YouTube. I have the link, and I'm going to try to play it as well at the end of this, but I'm not great with text, so we're going to see. But I do have to say, it's searingly powerful to watch, and sometimes it is true that just as I don't have the words to express to you how much appreciation and respect and just it's unimaginable. There are no words, but also coming from the other side, what you experienced is so beyond the human experience that it does transcend words. I'm going to ask you one more personal question. And I'm going to ask it in two ways because I'm not looking for a particular answer. I'm wondering, after witnessing what you've witnessed and experiencing what you've experienced, how does this experience affect your faith? And in the flip side of that, how does your faith affect how you experience such soul-crushing tragedy? And when I say faith, I don't necessarily mean Judaism, but you could take it however you want. I also mean just faith, meaning faith in God, faith in Judaism, faith in just faith in general. Where's the
Well,
intersection between the
growing, growing into my whole life as a circular Jew, living through my life and believing in God and learning the Bible, going through different things in the Bible that not only as a Jew, but even Christians and even Muslims believe in God. And we see that God gives us all kind of different things that we don't always understand. We don't understand the red heifer. We don't understand 40 years of Moses leading as a shepherd the Jews through Egypt and the desert and not going into Israel. There's so many questions that we could ask why it happened. If you're going back to emotional and what it means, letters, understanding how to look at everything. I was standing in Kfar Aza after cleaning some of the houses of the young generation over there. What they went through over there is unbelievable. And you see one house was hit, one house wasn't hit, this house was hit, this house wasn't hit. And I'm walking through the houses over there with the chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi David Lau. He was the chief rabbi until then. As we're walking through, a father of a very young girl that was killed over there, she and her boyfriend were living there in the young generation, one of the houses. And he sees the rabbi and he's weeping and crying and crying. And he's saying, why, lama, 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 why, God, why, Rabbi, explain to me why. And the rabbi gives him a hug. Not only gives him a hug, gives him a real hug. And he says to him, these are the words exactly my father said after the Holocaust. Rabbi David Lau, his father was Rabbi Israel Meir Lau. He was the chief rabbi before. And he was 4 years old after the Holocaust. And his whole family was killed. He was left with another two brothers. There were three little kids. And he was coming out of Auschwitz. And he saw the rabbi of Klosenberg, that his whole family was killed in front of his eyes. No one remained from his family. And as he's walking to the rabbi, he's crying and weeping and crying. And he says to the rabbi exactly those words. Lama, Rebbe, Lama. Why, Rabbi? Why? And the rabbi gives him a hug, exactly the same hug that he's giving him. And he says to him, my beautiful child, God puts us in situations that we cannot understand. But God gives us always opportunities to understand through what we go through. There's a reason for everything. And sometimes when you look at the letters, Lamed Mem Hey, you can pronounce it Lama. Why? But you can pronounce it Lema.
For what?
Lamed Mem Hey could be pronounced Lema. Right. Lema means what is the purpose? Why did I survive? And that was exactly what the rabbi said. Why did we survive the Holocaust? Why did we survive October 7? This father lives 2 blocks away from his daughter. The terrorists were running around his house also. He could have been killed. But he survived. There's a purpose for that. And our main purpose is to be united, to care for each other. We had very hard situations in the country, in Israel, before the October 7. We have still now hard situations anywhere around the world, not only as Jews, but anywhere around the world. The hatred of the Islam, the terrorists, the jihad. After 9/11, we saw what they were able to do. October 7 shows us exactly what they could do in a small country like us. We have to be united. It doesn't make a difference who we are or what we believe. We have to be united against terror. To enjoy our moments of life, to care one for each other, keep on hugging each other, keep on caring for each other. And that means we're walking in the shadows of God. And we are the light that God wants us to be.
Thank you. Thank you for being that light. I am going to try to play the video. My technical skills are definitely lacking, and usually I wind up with a video and no sound, or a sound and no video, but we'll see what happens. Before I play that, I just want to emphasize one more time, and also to emphasize that Simcha in no way asked me to say this, but I cannot emphasize enough how much I implore you to donate to ZAKA. Not only what he was talking about, the actual supplies that are needed for the work that they're doing, there is, of course, the counseling that we don't know how long that they're going to need that for. I want to believe that time heals all wounds, but it could also take a lot of time. So to help pay for the psychological counseling that these selfless heroes have gone through, and to also keep in mind that these are volunteers who have literally, in some cases, shut down their businesses for months in order to take care of the dead, and to take care of these moral imperatives that they hear in their hearts and in their soul. These are people who have literally risked their lives and sacrificed their well-beings in order to bring dignity to a state that was in so many ways devastated, but in so many beautiful ways has also come back together. So again, the link is in the show notes. And is there anything that you would like to add before I aim to play the video?
Just to say thank you again. And knowing that we have this support of careness, of humanity around the world, caring for us as Jews, caring for us as Israel citizens, being here and knowing we have so much support from so far away. That means we're never alone. We're not going to be ever alone. And that's something that we appreciate very much. And thank you again.
Thank you.
As we say, we should have a happy and sweet, great New Year. Shana Tova Metuka.
Shana Tova Metuka. Of course, my phone decides to ring right now because I forgot to unplug it. Shana Tova Metuka, a sweet and good year. May only good things and blessings come your way, come Israel's way, and we all pray for peace. And remembering that when we pray for peace for Israel, like Simcha said, it takes two to tango. So to pray for peace for Israel is to also pray for peace for those who are willing to be in a peaceful situation with us, and to pray for peace on earth. I'm going to try to play this video. It is on the ZAKA YouTube. It is incredible, and it is so far beyond words. So let me share my desktop here and share sound. Let's see how this goes. Simcha, you'll have to tell me if this works.
Important. Yeah.
Um,
Unbelievable.
honestly, it really does explain better than I've ever heard explained in the entire world, what transcends words. And I'm also realizing, and I do think that the Arab man I was talking about, the Arab Muslim man who pulled the women down from trees and covered them and said Shema for them, was in that video. I believe he's one of ZAKA. Is he with ZAKA? Is that one of the most founding stories that I've heard of the whole rescue mission? Simcha, again, I have no words. I thank you so much. It's so important that everybody listens, understands as things fade away, as time marches on, as this hostage situation for so many people just has sort of become a thing of the past as people move on. I think that it's voices like yours that are going to continue to keep these important memories alive and the Jewish people together. And thank you. And Am Yisrael Chai, and bless you.
Thank you. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you so much.